Okay, 53A, right in the middle. Okay, so we mentioned earlier a debate between Rebbe and Rabbi Dovid Rebbe Shimon. So exactly where you'd put the blood of these communal sin offerings or a personal sin offering. Can you put it below the horn on the altar? You have some leeway to put on either side below it, or it has to be exactly on the edge. So Mayi Rebbe Umayi Rabbi Dovid Rebbe Shimon. The Tanya, the Brisa says, Damim hal yonim nitanin michut sikr ulamala, dam hatachtonim nitanin michut sikr ulamatan. Good morning, Jules. Good morning. So the blood that goes, right, there was this red string that goes around the altar. So there was two sacrifices that were brought that you sprinkle the blood on top, the regular sin offering, and the bird ola offering. Their blood was applied above the chut hasikra, the red string that encircled the altar. So just like the damim limala, the blood that's applied above the string, so to the blood applied below the string. One second. Yeah, okay, so that's the beginning of the Brisa. Divrei Rebbe. Rabbi Shimon Omer b'medvar mamurim ba'ola sa'of. That's all true by a bird ola offering. Aval b'chatas behema, he atzma einasis ella al gufa shel karen. So the first opinion says, just like you have, we're comparing the blood application above the red string to the blood application below the red string, that you have some leeway, but according to Rabbi Shimon, that's only going to be true by the bird ola offering. Aval bechatas behema, by the actual sin offering, it has to be on the horn itself. You don't have that leeway of under the horn a little to the right or to the left. So Amar Rebbe Abo, my time of the Rebbe, meaning Rebbe who compares the blood above to the blood below and gives you more leeway. So what's his rationale? Oh, so what's the rationale? Because the verse tells us in Yecheskel, V'harel arba amos, u'maharel ulamala, hakaranos arba. There's Harel's referring to the altar. You see where we are, Jules? Yeah, good. There's some reference to the altar being 4 amos. So where's it talking about? The altar itself is much more than 4 amos. The horn itself was an amma by an amma. So what does it mean that the altar, the Harel, the altar, was 4 amos? So it says arba amos hudavia. It was 4 amos. It wasn't 4 amos. It was much more. It was so Amar of Ada bar Ava. It must be umakom karanos arba amos. Umakom karanos arba. So it says the area of the horns must be 4 amos, meaning you have the horn itself, and then you have under it more space. That's why it's called 4 amos, which would be a proof that when you're referring to that area, you're referring to not just the horn itself, but the part under it also. So says the Gemara, but again, makom karanos arba havia. So it sounds like that instead of referring to it as arba amos, it should refer to it as, as a 2 by 2 or something like that, because each horn is only an amma by an amma. So there's no exact area of arba amos. So maybe it should refer to it as 2 by 2 to have 4 square amos. Maybe that would be better. So ela ema rishus karanos arba amos. What it means to say is the actual area of the horns is arba amos, which means that we're not talking about the horn itself, but the horn and the space that it occupies. The domain, the domain under it is going to be all referred to as arba amos. So you have it itself is 1 amma, and under it it's 4 amos until the red string. So the altar itself is 10 amos. So from the horn itself down until the red string, you have that totals 1 plus 4 is going to be 5 amos. That area under the horn is 4 amos. So there you see that you have more leeway when you apply the blood, as opposed to Rabbi Dovid. Rabbi Shimon says that when it comes to the animal sin offering, it has to be on the horn itself, not under.
We got the expression around the horn.
Maybe around the horn, yeah.
You can play baseball.
That's funny. So, Tanan Hassam, the Mishnah says, when describing the area around the altar, it says, Chut shel sikra chogro be'emta lahavdil bein damim elyonim ledamim tachtonim. Right. So many offerings, the blood was applied below the red string. 2 offerings, the sin offering and the sin animal offering, and the bird ola offering was applied above the red string. But you had a red string that came and encircled the altar to separate between the bloods above and the bloods below, meaning the application of certain offerings above and application of certain offerings below. So minha immediately, what's the source that you needed, that you had such a thing, that you had such an encircling around the altar? Amar bar Katina Shnemar, the Haisa Hareshes Archatia Mizbeach, HaTorah Nasna Mechitza Lahavdil Bein Damim Halyonim L'Dam HaTachtonim. Apparently, we'll understand this more in about a week and a half. But there was some kind of a reshes as not a net, but some kind of I don't know what the word they use is, like some kind of partition, yeah, some kind of decorative area that was on the altar. Sounds like maybe by the tabernacle, and that part by the tabernacle was something which divided up the lower and the upper half of the altar. So too in the Beis Hamikdash, when we have the altar, you also need something to divide between the lower and the upper bloods.
Above and below.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. That's interesting. Why does that have to be red? Where's that come from?
Yeah.
That doesn't seem like that's the psukim. That might be, I don't know.
Red string.
I know, but just because it's a thing doesn't mean you have to put it on the altar.
No, right. But
Yeah.
I mean, there was something.
It was around.
It
was around.
Something about.
Okay. Okay. So then what happened was the Mishnah said that you would take the remnant blood and shofech, you would pour it al yisod dromus on the southern base. So in our picture yesterday, when the guy walks up the ramp, the kohen walks up the ramp, he makes a right and he circles around, and then his last stop is his last horn is right off to the left of him. If he's going up the ramp, it's the left of him. So which is once again, which side is it? It's the west side, right? Which side is it, right? He goes around. Let's see. He goes around. Yes, he comes up on the south, and then he makes a right to the east, and then he goes north, and then he goes west. So when he comes back, so he's here, right, by the southwest corner, and right under that is the base, right here, where the blood is applied. So, okay. So Shiare Hadam, the remnants of the blood. So now, Tana Rabbanon, it says that the Kohen takes from the sin offering, and what does he do with it? Velaka, we're going to Steve. So Tana Rabbanon, El Yisod Mizbeach, Zeh Yisod. So it says you put on the corner of the Mizbeach. Sorry, on the base of the Mizbeach. What base is that? Meaning the base goes around on a few parts. El Yisod Mizbeach, Zeh Yisod Dromi. That's the southern part of the base. So how do you know it's the southern part of the base? It doesn't say southern. It just says base. So, Ata Omer Zeh Yisod Dromi El Yisod Maravi. You're telling me it's the southern base, but maybe it's the western base. And says the Gemara, why would I say that? V'yilamed sasum min ha'mefurish. Because when it comes to the inner offerings, there the Torah is explicit. And when it comes to the outer offerings, the Torah remains vague. What does it say by the inner offerings? It says Yisod Ma'aravi. It says you put it on the western base. How do I know? Because it says Asher Pesach Ohel Moed. you have to put it on the area that corresponds to the entrance of the Ohel Moed. Now, the Ohel Moed is when you go in more holy parts of the temple, right? You enter to the tent of meeting. Now, remember, you're walking from east to west. So the more west you go, the more you enter to holier areas. So if you have to apply it to the base of the altar that is corresponding to the western area, corresponding to the entrance of the tent of meeting, so that means that it's the western part of the altar, which is going to correspond to the tent of meeting. Here they don't have a picture like that, but okay, you can imagine.
All
Yeah.
the pictures they put in here.
Yeah, I mean, here, right? The Heichal is here. It's more west. As you go in, it's more west. Here's the altar, right, on the south. So now you need to put it to the part corresponding to this entrance. Since this entrance is in the west, you should. Right now, we're saying maybe you apply it on the west of the altar, which is going to be, I guess not the southern part over here, but over here. That's the western part of correspondence. So if we have our when a Kohen goes up the ramp, so he makes a right, it's to the east, that's one corner, then he goes to the second corner. The third corner would be the west, and the fourth corner would be southwest. So the question is, why did you assume it's going to be on the southwest? Maybe it's just the western corner. So, and why would I say that? Because by the other offerings, it says you should apply it to the entrance, one that corresponds to the entrance of the tent of meeting, and therefore, if the Torah specified there and remained vague over here, so you could learn susum minima furish, learn from those cases. So says the Gemara, no, really, when it says the base, it's referring to the southwest corner. Why? Because Amris Yilamid Yiridaso min hakevesh liyitziyaso min haheichal. Because we're going to compare his exiting the ramp to his exiting from the tent of meeting, from the heichal. Ma yitziyaso min haheichal b'samuchlo af yiridaso min hakevesh b'samuchlo. So just like when he leaves the heichal, when he leaves the holier area, so what would be the first part of the altar he encounters? The first part's going to be the western corner of the altar. So that's true when he leaves the heichal. So we are comparing the application, the remnants of the blood, to the heichal, but in which way? I'm going to teach you that what does he encounter first when he leaves the heichal? The western, which part of the altar? The western part, because it corresponds to the entrance. So too, when he comes down the ramp, what's the first thing he encounters? The southwest corner. So we're comparing the two, but for differently. That it's the first thing you encounter. So when if he comes up the ramp and he makes a right and he makes his 4 stops, 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth stop is the southwestern corner. When he walks down the ramp, what's that first corner he encounters? That is the southwest corner, and therefore he applies the remnants of the blood over there. Yeah. Okay, now here we're going to get a little technical, so yeah, bear with us. I think they have some nice pictures. A little confusing for me, but yeah. Tanya Rebbe Shmuel. So Tanya, Rebbe Shmuel Omer Zevazeh Yisod Maravi. No, really, both the inner and the outer offerings, the remnant blood is poured on the western, on the western base, meaning the stop number 3, not the southwest, but the west. Rabbi Shimon Yochai Omer Zevazeh Yisod Dromi. Both are poured on the south. So machlokas, is it the third corner or the fourth corner? On which part of the base is the remnant blood poured? One holds inner and outer offerings is going to be on the stop number 3, the one that corresponds to the exit of the heichal, to the entrance of the tent of meeting. That's stop number 3. And the other one says, no, stop number 4, what we just said, the part that right when you walk down the ramp, that first one you encounter is the southwest one. Okay. So now, Bishlam Lamandamar Yisod Maravi, if you tell me, I understand Rabbi Shmuel very well. Rabbi Shmuel's very simple logic. By the inner sacrifices, it says explicitly where you should apply the blood, the remnant blood. Where should that be? Corresponding to the entrance to the tent of meeting, which is the western part of the altar, corresponds to the entrance to the tent of meeting. So that's very good. So just like by the inner offerings, it says that. By the outer offerings, it leaves it vague to teach you that you can learn from the specified part of the Torah to the vague part of the Torah, and both of them you have to apply them on the western part. That's very, very simple, right? The simplest way to read the Torah would be like that. The question is, that's all good for Rabbi Shmuel, but what about Rabbi Shimon Yochai? Zevizeh Yisod Dromi. He says you apply both of them on the southern part. Now, that's a little bit confusing because, right, here's our Heichal, and when you walk out, and the Torah says that the inner offerings have to be applied corresponding to the entrance of the Heichal, which is this corner. That's the western corner. And Rosh Bar Yochai says you apply both of them over here. So how is this southwest corner corresponding to the entrance to the Heichal? That's going to be the paperwork to figure out. So says Rosh Yochai, Zevida Yisod Dromi Ella Lemandam Yisod Dromi Mai Taima. What's the reason Rabbi Shimon says you pour both of them, and even the part that the Torah says corresponds to the entrance of the tent of meeting, which simply understood would mean the southern corner, it applies to the southwest corner. Why? Amar Ravasi, Kasavar Haitana, Rabbi Shimon Yochai must hold like the following author who says, Kule Mizbeach B'tzafon Kai. Because this part's a little bit the complicated part. Kule Mizbeach B'tzafon Kai. So literally the words mean that the altar is fully in the north. Now, what does that mean? So, what does that mean? So they have a few explanations. One was simpler than the other. One second. No, I mean, we know the altar was in the south, but it's saying that compared, yeah, like this. So I think like this, that this altar was in the south, right? This is the southern part of the temple. You walk in east to west, so this is the south. The question's like this: that at what part do we say that it's in the north? Meaning it's south, south, south until what part? So it's very possible that Rabbi Shimon Yochai said that this entire area is considered the north. This whole area is the north, meaning the Heichal is over here, only 10 amos, so it opens up. It's very possible that he considered this whole area to be the north, except for one little part over here, and that's going to be considered the south. This little part over here, which is our southern corner, but everything else is going to be the north. That's so 1 second. So one second. So why do you encounter that southern corner first when you walk out of the Heichal?
No, but I think what they were saying is the whole Mizbeach is moved further towards the.
Well, it's moved, but it's considered to be in the north. Can't move it.
It's moved more. Moved up there instead of starting there. Starts there. So
really?
Thing, according to the note, everything. There's a picture.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. I mean, not like this picture so much.
Right. No, just further. I think that's kind of
further.
General, I don't know if we've got another picture, but I think
yeah.
What they've got, that's kind of the
general
consensus
or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so since the maybe it was actually in the more of the northern part of the of the temple, and therefore the 5 amos that correspond to the entrance of the Heichal, since a person usually walks out in the middle of the entrance, so the first thing he encounters is going to actually be the southern part and not the western part. Okay, Lishna Achrina, another version of what Rosh Yochai held is Kuloi Pesach B'darom Kai. Kuloi Pesach B'darom Kai, that really It sounds like very similar, no? Yeah, the entire opening, the entire entrance of the Heichal was corresponding to the southern part of the altar. So, I don't know, I guess the debate is where the altar was exactly.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay. So because Rosh Yochai holds that the altar, right? I mean, I guess that's what you have to say because the Torah says explicitly it's corresponding. You have to put the blood corresponding to the entrance of the tent of meeting. So how'd you get to the southern part, the western part? How'd you get to the southern west corner? The western corner is really corresponding. If you move the altar up, so then you have now when you exit from the middle of the entrance of the tent of meeting, the first thing you encounter is actually going to be the southern corner or the southern west corner, the southwest corner, the one closest to the ramp, and not the other corner. Okay. Where it goes, interesting. Okay, good, very good. Thank you. Okay, so that was a machlokas Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Shimon Yochai. Now, Tana de Rabbi Shmuel. So another version is Tana de Rabbi Shmuel, ki Rabbi Shimon Yochai Omrim. That it sounds like in the Academy of Rabbi Shmuel they would say over the Rabbi Shimon Yochai Omrim Zev Yisod Maravi. That the students of Rabbi Shmuel would say that that Rabbi Shimon Yochai would hold like Rabbi Shmuel, meaning they would both agree that it's actually going to be on the western corner. Meaning, we just said that Rabbi Shimon Yochai said it's going to refer to the southeast corner, to the southwest corner, but the students of Rabbi Shmuel would say, "Oh no, Rabbi Shimon Yochai actually holds it's going to be applied on the western corner, the third corner." The simanech mashku gavri legavra. And a way to remember this is that we pulled the guy over to our side, basically. Meaning it sounds like Rabbi Shimon Yochai was convinced after some point, like Rabbi Shmuel, that really, according to this version, everyone agrees that's actually applied on the third corner, not the fourth corner. Okay, not moving the altar up, and therefore corresponds to the southern part, but leaving it where it is, it corresponds to the western part. And the way to remember that is that mashki gavri ligavra. We pulled over one person to another person. I mean, we pulled them to our side, and he was convinced like us. Okay. Ha'ola. The Ola offering is Kache Kadashim. Now, it's not the only one. Chatas is Kache Kadashim, and Asham is Kache Kadashim. The holy, the very holy sacrifices. They have more restrictions and less of a time limit to eat them. And Ha'ola Kache Kadashim. So what do? You shecht it in the north, and you accept the blood in a sanctified vessel in the north. V'damun ton shtei matanos, and the blood requires shtei matanos. You have to do 2 applications, shehein arba. Now we're going to talk about this. You have to do according to this opinion, you only do 2 applications, which are 4. How do you get 2 to be 4? You apply 2 to one corner, but it ends up spreading to 2 sides, to 2 corners, and then you apply 2 on another corner and it spreads to both corners. So you can hit it like this perfectly. It'll spread over here, and then over here, and it'll spread over here. Now it'll be 2 that are 4. You have to skin it. It's got to be chopped up, and it's fully burnt on the temple. They point out what's missing from here is the remnant blood that's poured seems to be missing from this Mishnah. The question is why. Fine. Gemara says, Ola ma'itaima tanile kacha kadashim. So it's not the only one of the holy offerings. There are chatas and asham. Why do we specify an Ola? Says the Gemara, Mishum delok siba la Hashem, kacha kadashim. Meaning the other ones, it says the words la Hashem, chatas la Hashem, and asham la Hashem. By Ola, it doesn't say that. So therefore, the Mishnah specified this one to tell you this is also one of the very holy sacrifices, even though it doesn't say the words La Hashem. Okay, fine. V'damun taon shtei matanos, and its blood requires 2 applications. So here's going to be a machlokas. Heichi avid. How do you do these applications? Amar Rav, nosen v'chozer v'nosen. So Rav says you take from your vessel, and you go and you apply it, and the second horn you apply it, and And then you go to each corner and you apply it. Why is it called two applications that are four? It's four applications.
Yeah, the same as actually four applications. So when it says two that are four, it's not two applications, it's two corners that are four sides.
Oh, very good, very good. Meaning everyone agrees that it's actually that it's only on two corners. The question is on those two corners, is it two applications or four applications? Oh, very good. Okay. So the Shmuel Amar Matana Achas Kimin Gamma. No saying. So Shmuel says it's going to be, you're going to go to two corners, do one application at each one, like the Greek letter Gamma, the third letter of the Greek alphabet. Rashi said that like our Chaf Sofit, like this and like this. Now, I don't know why my head didn't understand exactly. The point is that when you go and you put it, it then spreads. At a 90-degree angle, it can spread. Now, why is that comparable to a Chaf Sofit? Is it because, which way? I mean, it's the other way. You put it and then it goes like this.
This Gamma.
Rashi says it could look like this, like that, like a backwards L. Meaning L is down and then to the right. This is to the right and then down. That's where Rashi understands it. So the point is that it goes that you apply it and then it spreads. That's the point. Now, why? How exactly is that a?
Because that's what it looks like.
So where's the spreading part?
No, that's the.
Yeah.
Going there, or down the corner.
Well, we need it to go on both sides. That's what it's like this. You apply it on here and it goes like this.
Why it there? It's flashing this way now.
Right. That's what I don't get. But there is two sides you're saying.
Well, this is the corner, then one side.
Oh, I know, but it's like a funny. The point is that when you apply it like this, you apply it on this corner, it goes like this.
Right.
It spreads.
Yeah.
So that's why I was confused. Why exactly is that the equivalent of a Chaf Sofit?
I guess as close as he
It has to do with this.
with the corner.
I think like this. I think it means like this. When you apply it to the top, and then it hits the 90-degree angle, it ends up spreading. So just like that letter, when you apply it to the top and it goes down, so to here you apply it and it goes down and then it spreads. Something. So okay. Either way, the point is that you apply two applications and then it spreads. So Machlokas is Rav and Shmuel, four applications or two applications. Everyone agrees on two corners of the altar. Fine. Okay, so this Rav and Shmuel are first generation Amoraim. Their debate is reflected in the Tanaim in the previous generations. Kit Tanai. So we're going to have a seemingly contradiction in the psukim themselves, and how you reconcile the verses is going to reflect the opinions of Rav and Shmuel. So let's see. Yachol Yizorkenu Zrika Achas. You think you have to do just one throwing? Talmud over Saviv. No, you have to encircle it. Saviv Yachol Yakifenu Kichut. If you have to encircle it, maybe you have to just, it sounds like take your finger and go around. Talmud over no, Bizarre, you have to throw it, not go around with your finger. Well, which one is it? Do you throw it or do you go around? Ha-ketzad, kimin gamma. You do it like the Greek letter, which corresponds to our Chaf Sofit. And you do shtei matano shein abra. You would apply it. What's an application of zrika, a throwing, but then it itself will spread. So you do two of those. It's going to go on four corners, and that's four. That's the first opinion. Rabbi Shmuel Omer, Namar Kan Saviv. It says Saviv over here. V'namar Leholon Saviv. And it says later on Saviv. Ma Leholon Pisuk V'arba Matanos. Afkan Pisuk V'arba Matanos. Just like over there, Moshe took the blood and he put them on the horns of the altar. So there, it sounds like he put it on all the corners of the altar himself, not just a throwing that spread, but he himself applied it to the four corners. So to here, we have to apply it to four corners too. So that's reflective of Rav's opinion. So the first opinion is like Shmuel, and this Rabbi Shmuel is like Rav. Maybe you'll say, well, over there when Moshe applied it, it was on all four horns. By us, we only apply it to two of them. So we say Amras Ola to una Yisod. The Ola requires a base. And now the Keren Mizrachish Dromis Lo Haya Lo Yisod. The southeast, right when you turn right, that didn't have a base. So if that didn't have a base, so it knocks out that corner. And now we have to have the corners that are corresponding to each other. So if you don't have a southeast corner, so then we're knocking out the northwest corner as well. You have to have the corners that correspond to each other. So that's only going to be the northeast corner and the southwest corner. You're only going to apply it over there. So now this is interesting. So why did the southeast corner not have a base? Why? Everywhere else had a base. Other three parts had a base. Why not this one? My time. What's the reason? Rabbi Dovid. So the altar, the area of the Beis Hamikdash was split between two tribes, between Yehuda and Binyamin. So Yehuda's portion was when you enter into the altar, the different courtyards where the Kohanim go and the women can go and the Levim can go. That was all in the area of Yehuda. That whole beginning part of the Beis Hamikdash on the Temple Mount was in the portion of land that belonged to the tribe of Yehuda. At some point, as you go more from east to west into the altar, and you get more holy, more sanctified areas, that's going to switch over to the part of Binyamin. So you're going to have half the temple is really going to be, or not, maybe more than half, is in a place and is in the area of Yehuda, and you can have the Holy of Holies going to be in the place of Binyamin. The question is the area of the altar. The area of the altar is going to end up going, a little part of it is going to go to Yehuda and not to Binyamin. That part's going to be the part with no base. That's So my timer. Why is there no base on the southeast part? Rabbi Dovid lefi shelo haisa bechelko shel torif. Because that part was not in the section of the devourer. What does that mean? So we'll see. One of the blessings that coming up in whatever it is, 7-8 weeks, Parshas Vayechi, that Yaakov gave to Binyamin is going to be like a wolf that devours, which is going to be referred to the temple which devours the offerings. So it says the Amar Rav Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak Mizbeach Ochel Bechelko Shel Yehuda Amma. There was an Amma of the altar that was going to be, so to speak, eaten up, meaning it eats up the offerings. One Amma of the altar is going to be in the section of Yehuda, and that's going to be in the east. So Rashi brings from the Gemara in Yoma, what was in the section of Yehuda, right? The eastern part, which meaning you enter from the east and you go west as you get holier. So what was the eastern part? It was the Temple Mount, and it was all the different chambers, and it was the different courtyards, and the Ezra's Nashim where the women go. That was all for Yehuda. And where the 22 almas of the Kohanim can walk was Yehuda, and the place where the Yisraelim could walk was all Yehuda. So the area of Yehuda was in the eastern part. So too the eastern part of the altar also belonged to Yehuda. So the altar was in the south. So it's the southeast part of the altar that belonged. The southeast, the northeast, the northeast part, right? The southeast part is as you go closer to the south. Yeah, that's the northeast, right?
No. Southeast.
Southeast, I was right.
Southeast is Yehuda, the northeast is
right. Southeast is Yehuda.
Right.
Yeah. Meaning, right when you walk up and you make a right, right? When you walk up the ledge, you make a right.
Make a right. So
you make a right.
Yehuda.
Exactly. This part has a base. The southwest part has a base, and
the west and the northwest.
The west and northwest, yeah.
Sorry, the west and the north.
The southeast part, right? The southeast part does not have a
right.
The southeast. Okay, fine. So that's that. So now, yeah. So Amar Rabbi Levi Bar Chama, Amar Rabbi Chama, Rabbi Chanina, Ritzua Haisa Yotza Michalko Shel Yehuda, V'Nichneses Bechelko Shel Binyamin. There was a ritzua. I don't know if it's a strip. I don't know if it's literally or figuratively. There was an area. I think it means figuratively, there was a strip that went from the chelik of Yehuda and it entered into the chelik of Binyamin. And so, meaning there was a part of it that belonged to Yehuda that Binyamin didn't have. It was in that area, the altar, but that part Binyamin did not have access to. That was not in the portion of Binyamin. And what was his response? Vaya Binyamin atzadik, mitzta'ir leha b'chol yom. Every day, it caused him terrible grief. Meaning he had a prophecy and he saw how it's going to be divided up in the temple. And obviously, we're talking about very spiritual, lofty things about having the temple in your portion. And obviously, the more spirituality you could have, the better. So part of the altar was not in his portion. That caused him tremendous grief. He was mitzta'ir b'chol yom. Lenotla, he wanted it. Shenemar chofef alav kol yom. He was like worried about it all day. Therefore, what happened? So because of this, we see it's not just like he was jealous and therefore no. Lefikach, because of his worry, not worry. What's a better word than worry? Because of his concern, deeper than that, like a mitzvah, he was pained. He was pained over the fact that a part of the altar didn't go to him. Lefikach, because of that pain, Hashem rewarded him. Zacha Binyamin atzadik v'nase ushpizachim lakadosh baruch hu. Nothing to do with the ushpizan on Sukkot, but he became a host for Hashem. The same word, host. What does it mean he became a host for Hashem? Shenamar uben ksafev shachen. Right, the very end of the Torah, that between the shoulders I will dwell, meaning that Hashem is the Shekhinah is gonna reside in the Holy of Holies, by the Aron Kodesh. The Shekhinah is gonna reside there. So that was given to him as a reward for his terrible grief, a terrible pain that he had at the altar wasn't there. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Fine. So that was that. Very interesting. That's Binyamin. Yeah. I'm just wondering. The Gemara calls him Binyamin Atzadik as the introduction to. He had terrible pain over the fact that he was. Maybe it's a certain level of righteousness. I mean, you could have said Binyamin. We know Yosef Atzadik. Binyamin. Maybe I'm just suggesting maybe that it's a level of righteousness to every day sit there and be pained over the fact that you don't have access to more spirituality. So that's why maybe he calls him Binyamin Atzadik. I don't know. Just a suggestion. Okay, so it says Meisvei Ola Sa'of. Back to Ola Sa'of. Back to the Ola offering, the bird Ola offering. So Kate said Haisana says, how would you do it? Hayamolek as Rosho, you would go and do Malika. I don't know, there's no English word for Malika. The way you would slaughter was with the Kohen, you would do Malika as Rosho Mimul Orpa, corresponding to the back of the neck. You go from the back. Umavdil umimatze dama al kiram mizbeach, and you go and the blood would be squeezed out onto the wall of the altar. Now hold on. Now apparently this happened. I think the assumption that this happened on that southeast part because the amris lohaya la yisod. We're asking now if you tell me that there was no base on that part. So then ba'avir ba'alma hudikavid. He's just squeezing it out in the air. But that can't be. It has to go onto the altar. You can't just squeeze out and let the blood go to waste. So then the blood just goes to waste, and that can't be. So yeah. So what does that mean? How is there no base? Now, the assumption is that this is all happening on the southeast part, obviously, because other parts do have a base. So okay. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak says, Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, Amar kachisnu avir de Binyamin. Karka de Yehuda. Mentioned that they made a deal. That the airspace of Binyamin is going to be like the karka of Yehuda. Now, how does that help anything? Right. So now, the airspace of Binyamin is going to be the land of Yehuda. So I think there's a debate exactly what this means. So Rashi says that they actually made a small ledge corresponding to that part. And that's where they would see the blood. They actually made a small little ledge over there. It corresponded, and they would, and there's like a small little protrusion over there. And they would put the, so the difference is like this, that even though they made a small ledge, but it wasn't considered a base. Meaning it was a base, but didn't have the sanctity of a base. So it didn't have a base for other things, but for this, you would put it there, and it just a technicality that it wouldn't go to waste. But it doesn't have the sanctity of a base. That's what it means. The Avir de Binyamin, the airspace of Binyamin, was like the land of Yehuda. That area did not have the sanctity of the base, and therefore it was in Yehuda's property. It's as if there was no base there, but it was enough to put something there that it shouldn't go to waste. Yeah. Yeah. Right. So it's funny. So it's called the wall of the altar because that's where you have to put the blood, but it's not called the base of the altar. So yeah. So okay. And it was 3 tefachim off the ground. Yeah. What do you gain from 3 tefachim? Because anything within 3 tefachim to the ground is considered part of the ground, right? So and if it's part of the ground, then it's considered the base because the base had to be on the ground. But this wasn't the base. This is just something else. It's just not the ground, but not the base. So therefore, it had to be above 3 tefachim. Yeah, that's what Binyamin and Yehuda were arguing about. So 55. Okay, let's stop here because we're beginning a new section a little bit about this base idea. Time tomorrow, 6 a.m. No.
Early he jet.